Hello, humans! Welcome back to the Illegal Trans Woman on AM 950 in the Twin Cities and WCPT 820 AM in Chicago. Today's show is special. Well, of course, you're listening to me, Ellie Krug, the one and only. Today's show is special because we are broadcasting live in the Twin Cities from
Golden Valley.
Golden Valley. Thank you. My guest helps me out there. I'm always getting those confused. For our listeners in Chicago, you're going to be hearing this a couple of weeks late, but we have a Pride in Golden Valley, Minnesota, which is also about a mile from the headquarters of General Mills, the people that bring you Cheerios. And it is a lovely day here in Minnesota, blue sky, wonderful mint. And I am just here interviewing guests today, and we've got, as we always do, some news bites and some random acts to talk about. But I am now here checking my time and making sure that we have enough time with my very first guest, my dear friend, Christopher. Christopher, welcome to the Illegal Trans Woman.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on your show.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I really am.
Thank you.
So, Christopher, I'm wondering, you and I have known each other for several years, but we've never talked about the meaning of pride. So what does pride mean to you? Like coming to an event like this with thousands of people, hundreds of booths, what does it mean to you?
Pride means to me, it's a celebration of all of our individual differences and similarities, but it's just a celebration of life. And that's why I like Pride. I think it's important for us to do every year. Because it reminds all of us of all of the different humans that are out there and that we all deserve love.
Well, and we have plenty of humans right at this place, don't we?
We do.
We have seen straight and queer and very queer. We've seen furries. We've seen all kinds of folks,
yes.
and that is the great thing about Pride, because it's a welcoming place. I mean, when you walk into a Pride event, how does it change for you in terms of like just walking off of a normal street?
Ooh, how does it change? Just walking off. Well, for one thing, there are rainbows everywhere, and who doesn't love rainbows? And then you see so many different humans walking down the street that you don't normally see every day, and it's just a big celebration. So
it is a big celebration of humanity, right? Of the spectrum of gender, the spectrum of sexuality, the spectrum of all of us attempting to survive the human condition. It really is. How about tell us about your first Pride? What was it like for you, and were you out when you went to your first Pride? How long ago was it?
Gosh, I want to say it was probably 1990. Well, we're in the 1900s. Going back to the 1900s, people. I think it was 1998 was probably my first Pride.
Okay.
I just moved to the Twin Cities. I was out. I moved here with a boyfriend. And it was rather emotional watching the parade. This is Pride in Minneapolis. So I attended the Minneapolis Gay Pride Parade, and what really choked me up was seeing the P flag in the parade there.
So for listeners, P flag is Parents and Friends of Lesbian and Gays. No, they don't screw that up. Okay. Okay. Why was that so emotional for you?
It was just emotional to be able to see parents that supported their children and loved on them, even though they were different. Because coming out wasn't the easiest thing for me. It wasn't super hard either. And my parents still loved on me, but my mom's reaction was she cried.
Right.
She was doing dishes and she cried, and she was like, I'm like, Mom, why are you crying? She's like, well, I don't want you to die from AIDS. And I was like, okay. And my dad.
And that was a very real
Yeah.
fear, even into the late 90s, because of the AIDS epidemic and trying to get a handle on HIV and trying to come up with the right drugs, the right drug combination. Of course, today, it's an absolute manageable kind of health condition. But back then, I mean, I saw a statistic, I think that we lost 300,000 gay men to the AIDS epidemic. So, go on.
Yeah. And then my dad and I got into a little scuffle over it. But he came around, and he loves my husband, and we're going golfing with him tomorrow. And then when I told my grandma, that was really hard for me because I wasn't sure if she was going to be accepting or not.
Mm-hmm.
And she was. She was like, "Oh, honey, I knew." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "But let's not tell your grandpa." And I think Grandpa knew because anytime my husband didn't come with me to the farm, he'd always ask, "Where's the undertaker?" Because my husband works in the funeral business. He's
Right.
like, "How come the undertaker's not here, Christopher?"
Did he know that you were married?
No. We weren't married
At that point?
At that point.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to have you on because I adore you.
Well,
and,
thank you. I adore you too.
You and I have done some wonderful things together, like kayaking on a Minnesota lake.
So much fun. We had a lot of great conversations.
We did.
Yeah.
Actually, there's something about being on the lake, with just, you've got the action of having to row or oar, and, not row, but oar, and
Yeah.
it does help open people up. But I wanted to talk with you because, apart from all of that, and this is hard for me to ask, but you knew I was going to ask it because I have put it in some preview for our conversation.
Yes.
But it's not a given that gay men would be close to a transgender woman, particularly one who is, I think I'm close to being old enough to be your mother. And it's not, so we have the age thing, but we also have the difference, because in the, trans community, there's been some backlash from gay and lesbian folks. I mean, that's just the way the reality is.
Yeah.
So what is it about our friendship? What is it about you and your husband and some other very close friends that we were with? What is it about that allows our friendship to flourish?
I think just because you're an awesome person. I don't even consider. I obviously know that you're trans. You're a trans woman, but that doesn't even come into play in my psyche, in my brain. I just love you as a human, and as a friend, and as an amazing woman.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you, Christopher.
You're welcome.
You rehearsed that very well when we did that 3 minutes ago.
There was no rehearsal, people. That came from the heart.
I know it. Well, particularly now with what's going on in America with transgender people, I think that it's so incredibly important that trans folks have all kinds of friends, all kinds of allies, all kinds of people loving us. Mm-hmm. It's just incredibly important. It's always important. But right now with what's going on, it is incredibly important for us.
Yeah, it is.
And I harp at times about what it means to be trans in America, and I hope I don't bore you when I do that, or
Not at all.
or tell you too much about it. Okay.
No, not at all.
But you see me stress, right?
Mm-hmm. I do.
You know that I'm a pretty strong person generally. Okay?
Yes. Yep.
But you see me stress, and and then do you worry as a gay man that the trans people are just the front line?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I think hate and biases, well, not I think, I know, they are taught. Because I was thinking back to when I was just a wee little Christopher, probably about 8 or 9, and my family telling me that being gay was wrong, and I didn't even know what gay was. And I remember going Christmas shopping because I lived in Bloomer, Wisconsin at the time. It's a little town, you blink twice, you're through it. And so we'd go to a bigger city, and I think we were probably in Roseville or something like that, at Rosedale Mall. And I was with my grandma, and I saw these 2 guys walk past me holding hands, and I I felt a little scared because I was told that they're bad people. Not at that moment, but just that's what I was taught. So I think you doing your gray area thinking talks and educating the public is super important. And it helps people get rid of that bias or change that bias.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know, of course, that's what I'm trying to do. That's my remaining life's mission work. Mm-hmm. My audience has heard that before quite a bit. Well, I'm just so thankful for you. You know, you and I have this kind of magical chemistry when we get together.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely. And I'm appreciative to have you as a friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, last year you and your husband have this wonderful Thanksgiving dinner where you invite like 60 people. I mean, it's a big gathering. And I just was so grateful that you invited me last year, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, listen, I'm watching our time.
Okay.
Christopher, thank you for being on The Illegal Trans Woman.
Anytime.
Oh, we might have you back, honey.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay, listeners, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jess Braverman, who is the legal director for gender justice here in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, on The Illegal Trans Woman. If you like what you hear, visit my website at elliekrug.com or email me at elliejkrug@gmail.com. We'll be back in a second. And we're back. Hey, listeners, we're back. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, on The Illegal Trans Woman. We are coming to you live from Golden Valley, Minnesota, where the Golden Valley Pride is taking place. We have thousands of people passing by our booth. It is and people of all collections of ages and descriptions, and it is, the only word I have for it is lovely. It is incredibly lovely. And equally lovely is my next guest, because I am thrilled to have Jess Braverman, who is the legal director for gender justice in Minneapolis. Jess, welcome back to The Legal Trans Woman.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am just thrilled. We've had you on. You have been on this show at least once, the iteration of The Illegal Trans Woman, but I've had you on other shows as well. And I'm always grateful. Let's begin with you. Why don't you tell the listeners, because this show is airing both here in Minnesota as well as in Chicago, and of course across the world through podcast. Tell everyone, what is gender justice? Because I actually was involved, I think I told you, I was involved with gender justice just tangentially when it began, 15 years ago, 16 years ago? All right, tell us what gender justice is. What do you do?
Gender Justice is a nonprofit legal and advocacy organization here in Minnesota. So we advocate through the law. We'll bring lawsuits. We promote transgender rights and other LGBT rights broadly, abortion rights, pregnancy rights, constitutional protections, and things along those lines. We also do advocacy. We deal with legislation. We're promoting an inclusive and broad equal rights amendment. So we just do a lot of stuff here in Minnesota around bodily autonomy, pregnancy rights, LGBT rights, and things of that nature.
Okay, and I remember when it was just two people.
Yes.
Okay, how big are you now? How big is the organization now?
I don't know the exact number, but we've definitely, I'd say we have at least a dozen employees.
Okay.
And volunteers, interns,
Yeah.
and board, yeah.
Yeah, well, listeners, don't let the relatively small size cause you to think that this is not a legal powerhouse. Because gender justice, you have, the most recent fantastic transgender victory that I'm aware of in the court system came last year. And you want to talk about that?
Is it the powerlifting?
Yeah, the powerlifting case.
So Minnesota is the first state in the country actually to have a statewide discrimination law that expressly protects transgender people.
Hooray.
But it's still taken so long to get courts to recognize what that means. And so recently we brought a case where transgender women were barred from competing in women's events, particularly powerlifting. We brought a discrimination case. It made its way up to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and we won. The court determined that they discriminated against our client in public accommodations based on the fact that she is transgender, and that's illegal in Minnesota, which is just huge. We were just ecstatic by that win.
It was a really great win. It was, and and you're going to be making more law, I have no doubt, as we go forward. So let's talk about, because I just had Christopher on and asking about how significant, how important was Pride? What does Pride mean to him? Okay, and can you tell us, what does Pride mean to you?
That's something that I think has changed for me over the years. What I can say it means now is, authenticity, I think, is a huge part of it. For me, it's being able to be your authentic self and not be so worried about what other people think about you. Are you fitting into a certain box? Are you fitting into a certain category? And so so for me, Pride it's about authenticity. Right now, we're obviously in a time where there's a lot of backlash, and so
understated.
Yes, and so I would say, it's authenticity plus. Like it's not something you can take for granted. Authenticity, right? There's a lot of pressure to fit into certain boxes, and whatever that looks like for people. Sometimes for people, it's a pressure to be straight, even if you're not. A pressure to be cisgender, even if you're not. And I think for me, Pride is like taking off that pressure and saying like, who am I? And if I don't know, like that's okay too, right? That for me is Pride currently.
Okay. The ambiguity is just fine.
It's just fine.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
So tell me, what was you? I mean, you have East Coast roots.
Yep.
You have been not only a national traveler legally and in your professional career, you have wonderful credentials academically. Tell me, what was your first Pride, and what did it feel like for you to go to it?
It's a really funny question because my first Pride, I think it must have been the Dyke March in 1999, which was a more political alternative to Pride. But I was part of it accidentally. So
where was that?
That was in New York City.
Okay.
I'm from the Bronx originally, and I was with my girlfriend at the time. We were about 16. In 1999.
16.
Yeah. And it was 1999, and we were just walking. We were like, what is this? And then we were like, oh, it's the Dyke March. I've heard of this. And so we were actually trying to get past it. Like, we watched it for a bit, but then the police were trying to keep, like, order, and so we got kind of pushed into it by the police. Like, the NYPD forced us to march in the Dyke March, and we were trying to explain to them, no, we're just trying to cross the street. And so we had to go actually a couple blocks. And so I don't even know what to make of that story, but it stands out in my memory. It was definitely my first Pride event that I went to. And it was just cool seeing all those people who identified at the time as, I belong in the Dyke March, just seeing people who felt like that's where they belonged, walking along the streets, feeling not alone. I mean, even in New York City in 1999, it wasn't easy, it wasn't common. It's not like, I think people have this idea, oh, you grew up in New York City, it must have been so easy. Like, no, it came with its own struggle. So it was really just a cool thing to run into and then to be forced to be a part of until we made our way to the subway. So.
I'm thinking about the stories about these poor children being forced to be transgender.
by the NYPD, by the New York Police Department.
Well, that's just great. That's just great. Well, so one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, because you have this wonderful legal background and you are grounded. I mean, you have the East Coast perspective of things. And you and I know that within the alphabet, the LGBTQ plus alphabet, the T's have not necessarily always enjoyed the same degree of respect, the same degree of acceptability. And I'm remembering, okay, because, with Marsha P. Johnson, we had some other, Sylvia Rivera, some incredible trans women at Stonewall, okay, throwing the bricks, okay, rallying the crowds, helping Stonewall to happen in June of 1969. And so they were on the forefront. But as you know, as I reminded you, I mean, trans people weren't allowed to march in the first Pride Parade in New York City. So tell me, with that history, okay, how do you see things playing out today? Because you and I both know back in 2000, early 2000s, when the Employment Non-Discrimination Act was coming, you know, trans people were kicked out of that. I mean, that's not that long ago if you're transgender, okay? So give me your take on where things might stand now. Give me both your like social but your legal kind of take about that.
This is such a great question. I think one thing to keep in mind is there's no monolith, right? Like I definitely had friends who identified as lesbian, gay, but not transgender, supporting transgender rights. So, it's not like everybody was against it, but sure. I would say, the moneyed groups, the groups with power, the groups who could move things.
The Barney Franks.
And like, I mean, back in the day, it was the HRC pushing the equal rights, which
Human Rights Campaign.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I remember they actually did a tour. Like they went from city to city because they knew what it must have been because they knew what they were doing was wrong. They had to do like a listening tour. And I remember when they came to New York City, and people were really upset, and not just trans people, that they were pushing like an equal rights provision that wasn't trans inclusive. So it definitely wasn't everyone, but there was this split. I think also, there were groups who were opposed to like the leather daddies at Pride. Like we all want to be normal. We just want to be seen in this way. And so it was kind of this respectability politics versus authenticity is maybe one way to think about it. But I do, and now what we see is like the rise of a big TERF movement, especially in the UK and here in the US.
Explain what TERF means, because some listeners won't know that.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I use acronyms. I shouldn't. Trans exclusionary radical feminists. They do not.
Also known as J.K. Rowling.
Yes, and there's a lot of groups now. I mean, I went to Smith College, a women's college, and so people didn't use. I don't remember when that terminology came about. People may not have used it, but there was definitely this divide, right?
Well, because there was. Were you at Smith when? No, you weren't at Smith when trans women started going there.
Trans women were not allowed when I was there. Right. We were protesting that.
Right. Okay.
And so, I do know. I'm familiar with that movement. There was a huge split. A lot of my friends who took the friends, I use the term loosely, right? A lot of my colleagues, or who were not trans inclusive at the time, I think have come around to be like, oh, you know what? I think that was wrong.
Sure.
But there is a big push. It's basically people saying like trans people don't exist. It's an ideology. It's women who are just being told they should be ashamed to be women. For trans men, it's a movement that's gotten, unfortunately, a lot of sway over the years, especially around sports. So sports inclusion. We, at Gender Justice, we believe that there is no feminism, there is no gender liberation that doesn't include trans liberation. Like, it's just not possible. You could game it out any which way, right? I'm a lawyer, so I speak in logical terms, which is why I say game it out, right? But that's just how my mind works. There's no way I can game this out and say like, yeah, we can have like some sort of liberation without trans liberation. In my view, it's just not possible, right? Because if I don't know, let's say I don't know if I'm trans or not, like I need room to explore that. I don't need someone telling me just be proud to be a woman. It's like, okay, maybe I'm proud to be a woman, but like, okay, but I still need to explore like what is this piece of me that's not comfortable? How can I be more authentic?
Because that's what human authenticity is all about.
Yes, and so, the pressure to be a certain way, to have your body look a certain way, that harms all of us. The pressure to say, like, you can't have a job if you look this way, or if you are this way, right? I just don't see a way that doesn't harm everyone. And so I think the TERF ideology, to me, is wrong. It's harmful, and it takes us backwards. They would disagree with that. But I just I don't see a future where that gets us anywhere good. So.
Well, and I wasn't kidding about J.K. Rowling, because she is such a powerful voice, certainly in the literary world, but she's got a lot of money.
Yep.
And she has, I did a piece a couple weeks ago about what was going on in the UK about trans people. I mean, they're forcing all trans kids to, who are on gender-affirming care to detransition. They're taking away the GAC, and they're forcing trans women like Ellie Krug to use the men's restroom. I mean, but J.K. Rowling has had a lot to do with that, and the TERF movement. Okay, I'm not hearing anything in the headset. Okay, all right, thank you very much. Sorry about those technical difficulties. Listeners, this is what happens when we are live outside, because you're also hearing music, and that's not background feed music. It's because they're having a jazz concert.
Yeah. We need to tell them, stop having a good time at Pride. We're trying to do a taping here.
we can walk and chew gum. We can. But a lot of the TERF movement is being influenced by what's going on in England, in the UK. And so where do you see this headed, though, Jess? Because the Trump administration is barreling full steam to go after my community, okay, to go after trans people. I mean, the segment that's going to follow this, I'm going to talk about how, of all places, the Cleveland Clinic has gone backwards and given in. And so where do you see it ending for the community?
What I'd like to think is that this is temporary. It's a desperate, there's been a lot of, there has been progress, and I think this is a temporary grasp at like bringing back that power towards a traditional white Christian nationalist framework, which is a framework that revolves around Christianity, it revolves around traditional gender roles.
Cisgender.
It's very white, at the forefront. And so I think this is just, it's a desperate grab. And when they have the power, they're doing what they can to make people's lives absolutely miserable and hard. What I hope, and I do this work, right? Like we litigate, we fight, we advocate.
Yep.
And what I have to think when I'm doing this is this can change. This is not an inevitable trajectory. This is not forever. And if I didn't believe that, I don't know that I could do the work I'm doing. And so I think that this is, it's
transitory.
Transitory. I hope. The harm is going to be long lasting. This isn't something that you just forget and move on. But I do think that things are going to turn. It's about who has the power. And right now, people who are really afraid of authenticity, who are really afraid of people expressing themselves, and just being, they're afraid to lose their grasp on power, and they're clinging to it so desperately, and it's having just a terrible impact on people.
Terrible. I mean, my listeners have listen to me. I mean, the whole reason this show exists, which was created a week after Donald Trump was elected for the second time as president, my listeners have heard even Ellie Krug, lawyer. I've got, years of therapy, okay? Trust me. I'm a pretty tough nut.
Yeah.
But even I am at times despondent about what the news that's coming out of, D.C., the news that's coming out of other places, the news that's coming out of frickin' Texas. My God.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk and shift a little bit about the mechanism, one of the mechanisms that the Trump administration is using, which is the power of the purse, the dollar, withholding federal funds.
Right,
okay?
which is really Congress who has the power of the purse, but
what's Congress?
Right, correct. Right.
So what are you hearing in your, because you are on listservs, you got your legal circles going on. What are you hearing about how bad this is going to get? Maybe we should lay the foundation about how do they do this with the money? How is the Trump administration barreling down on the trans community, trans allies using money?
So one thing they're trying to do is, it's even more extreme than what they do in the abortion context. So in the abortion context, they have rules in place like you can't use federal dollars for abortion care. But a hospital, let's say, that has abortion going on in the hospital, they can't use federal dollars for that, right? But the hospital can still exist.
It can still get Medicaid and
Correct.
Medicare fund for
Correct.
every eligible procedures for everything. Yeah.
Correct. For gender-affirming care, particularly for adolescents, the administration is trying to make it so that if you do these, if you provide this medical care, you just can't get federal funding. So it's not even like what you spend it on, it's you can't have it. And this leads to, this is basically threatening the collapse of hospitals. And in a time where, let's say, like rural healthcare, right, is so hard to come by, they're threatening to withhold money and not to like infuse hospitals with money. It's really horrifying, but it is a really big threat, because let's say you have a hospital that provides cancer treatment and all sorts of life-saving treatment and gender-affirming care, which for many people is also life-saving treatment. They're deciding, like, what do we do? Do we stop providing this care and then we can continue to provide other forms of care, or do we just, do we get shut down? They're threatening doctors, like, if you provide this care, you won't be able to provide. Their license is going to be at risk. And
they're going to blacklist.
Yeah.
Blacklist doctors.
And not all of that is, like, ultimately actionable, right? Like, they're making a lot of threats, but the threats are really scary. And if you're, let's say, a doctor and you're being threatened, it's your livelihood, right? Like, you may love your patients and want to support them, but then you're weighing that against, like, I can no longer practice medicine. What is my family going to do?
And I got $300,000, $400,000 in, college bills.
Right.
So, I'm on a school board.
Yep.
And we just got done doing our preliminary budget, kind of thing, because cyclical, the school board's approving budgets and all that. Well, there's $2.5 million. It's federal dollars that comes to my school district. And I'm envisioning in the not too near future, not too far future, that it's going to come down to a question of whether my school district abandons trans and, queer kids, non-binary kids.
Right.
What do we do about that?
I mean,
we've got Keith Ellison, thank God, as our Attorney General. We have gender justice, thank God. Okay, but how do you fight that with, 400 different school districts in Minnesota, all at risk of losing federal dollars?
So Minnesota has done a good job of fighting back. It's daunting. It is. It's exactly as you describe. It's very daunting. But Minnesota so far has done a really good job of fighting back. They're taking it to the courts. They're, when they're getting a threat, they're saying, like, well, let's go litigate this. Like, you want to challenge us? And so far, our administration here in Minnesota has not kind of thrown trans kids under the bus. They've said, like, look, it's all of us or none of us, where you want us to discriminate against children, and we're not going to do that. So let's go to court. And so we are. I mean, the state of Minnesota is in court on these issues, and they're fighting it. And so far, they're, successfully. There was a recent ruling where a bunch of cisgender athletes sued a school district because they had a transgender girl playing softball, and the Eighth Circuit, which is a federal appeals court, it's very conservative. They ruled in favor of the trans student. Actually, they basically said these cisgender athletes don't have a case, and they dismissed it.
Is this the Minnesota case?
This is the Minnesota softball case.
The softball case.
Yes.
I did not know that.
So they're getting good results. It may not be in every case. It may not be stuff that's making it to, like, the headline news, but there are good results happening, and we're seeing Minnesota fight and get those results. So that's great.
Well, Jess, again, my hat is off to you. You are like a giant. You are in the civil rights movement here in Minnesota right now, okay? And so is gender justice. And we're going to have to go, but I wanted to just thank you for being on the show. But most importantly, I want to thank you for the work that you and your colleagues are doing, okay? Will you let them all know that Ellie Krug said keep it up?
Absolutely, and we all appreciate you, so thank you.
Okay. All right, well, listeners, we're going to take a break here, talking to you from the Golden Valley Pride Festival in Golden Valley, Minnesota. It is a lovely, lovely day. You're hearing the music in the background. It is just, and we're near a rainbow balloon.
Rainbow balloon arch.
So, all right, this is where we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll do my news bites and then random acts. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, on the Illegal Trans Woman. And we're back. The Illegal Trans Woman on AM 950 in the Twin Cities and WCPT 820 AM in Chicago. You're listening to me, Ellie Krug, on the Illegal Trans Woman. We are at the Golden Valley Pride event. We've just had some fantastic interviews of folks, and now it's time for my news bites. I've got less than 5 minutes to give you 2 bites. Bite number 1. Remember how MAGA keeps attacking trans kids and youth? We just got done talking to Jess Braverman about that. Remember that. Remember that they keep talking about us, attacking our kids and our youth because they don't believe being transgender is real. They don't believe it. And they believe that if they can keep trans kids and youth from transitioning genders, that somehow they'll be cisgender adults. They'll see the error of their ways and they won't be trans. Well, guess what? This week, a Canadian study debunked myths about not being real. Absolutely. They studied 445 adolescents. They did a compilation of a whole lot of different other kinds of studies with the average age at which a child experienced gender dysphoria being 9.5 years old. Again, gender dysphoria, folks, is when your brain doesn't match your body and you have this horrible difficulty living your life because nothing is working right. Well, this study found that 97% of trans kids and youth, of these adolescents, continue to identify as transgender after more than 2.5 years of starting on gender-affirming care. And it found, as always, it consistently confirmed once again that gender-affirming care results in less depression, suicidal ideation, substance abuse, and all the other bad things that happen when you are not living your life as you should, according to your authentic self. And this affirms that being transgender, even when you are 9.5 years old, is real. It's about wiring in the brain. It's not about something you see at school and you decide, oh, that's kind of cool, I'm going to do that. Second news bite, Cleveland Clinic, caves. You know, I've been following for months attacks on blue state hospitals that provide gender-affirming care. The Cleveland Clinic is in Cleveland, Ohio. Let's, for the record, note it is not a blue state, it is a red state. But nonetheless, as you heard, we just heard talking with Jess, the tactic now against all hospitals that ever provided gender-affirming care, because at one time, the Cleveland Clinic did provide gender-affirming care for trans kids and trans youth. It stopped it 3 years ago when the Ohio legislature outlawed gender-affirming care for trans kids and youth. Well, that did not keep the Department of Justice from going after the Cleveland Clinic, claiming that they engaged in billing irregularities when they were providing that care. Well, last week, the Cleveland Clinic settled with the Department of Justice for allegedly misbilling on gender-affirming care. It's going to pay $300,000 to the Department of Justice and to the Attorney General in Ohio. But most importantly, it's going to create this thing called a detransition clinic. Apparently, to help all of the millions of transgender people who realize everything is wrong and they detransition, which does not happen. The percentage is incredibly small. About regret. In fact, far more people regret having knee surgery or hip surgery or shoulder surgery or any other kind of surgery than regret going through gender-affirming care. As reported in The Advocate, not only did the Cleveland Clinic, which by the way is probably in this country second most remarkable compared to the, right after the Mayo Clinic, not only that, but that Cleveland Clinic had to fire 5 physicians who had engaged in gender-affirming care. This is horrible. This is a sign of more things coming, just as I talked with Jess. It is the kind of thing that I am on this show for advocating against for my community. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I've got some random acts for you, 2 of them I think that you'll enjoy. We're going to take a break. This is a legal trans woman from Golden Valley Pride. And we're back. Ellie Krug with the Illegal Trans Woman, transmitting to you, airing live from Golden Valley Pride in Golden Valley, Minnesota, a suburb of the Twin Cities. I am thrilled to be able to talk to you about 2 random acts. Random act number 1. Now, you heard from me last week that I took a road trip to Omaha and Lincoln to speak at a couple of churches and then at a law firm to do my gray area thinking. And I just got to tell you, as I told you last week, it was incredibly well received. This is my mission work about trying to make the world a better place, trying desperately to get people to remember that we all have good hearts. Remember my signature line, 98% of all humans have good hearts, 2% are incredibly challenged. At any rate, that was a success, that road trip, so I'm planning another one. I am planning a road trip to the Pacific Northwest the second and third weeks of August. That's going to take me several thousand miles by car. I can't wait to do it. I love driving. And so I'm going to try. I'm organizing right now. I've already heard from a church in Boise. I'm going to organize and try and speak at a number of places along that way. Listeners, if you have any contacts with a church, a nonprofit, maybe a business that's brave out in the Pacific Northwest or the near West, share my name with them, okay? And share my email, ellieJkrug@gmail.com. I'd love to connect with them. That was Random Act number 1. Random Act number 2. I told you last week that I became a grandparent. Just so wonderful. Well, I got to meet my granddaughter a week ago today. And let me just tell you, it was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. Just people, I can't, just to be able to see my daughter so happy, and her partner so very happy about having this little, beautiful, Asian-looking girl, because my daughter is Korean, being able to see this black-haired, because we're talking a lot of hair, and me able to behold her, one of the just great, great experiences of my life. But you know what? I live in a neighborhood that, on a cul-de-sac, in houses that are called villas, which means, that's code word for old people who are retired. And so throughout the neighborhood are all retired folks. And so they're thrilled for me. So one of my neighbors gave me a picture of my granddaughter, in a picture frame, which totally caused me to cry. I had another neighbor who stopped by last night with books. Now, these are books for a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. But she's like, but it can be the start of your library for your granddaughter. And that was just there were 4 books, my God, the trouble this woman went to. And it was an independent bookstore, I know, as well. So I'm just, the generosity of people sending me note cards, of just being so excited for me. I have now tapped into this grandparent kind of current, and it's just lovely. Okay, well, listen, that is a live show for you out at Golden Valley Pride. Thank you. Keep stumbling on that, Ellie Krug. Let's get that down. Big thanks to my producer, Brett, because Brett's been doing a lot of work on this show. And to you, my listeners, I'm running into people who are listening to the show. I'm very grateful. And go out and do something good between now and when you hear my voice next, and something good for yourself. Ellie Krug, over and out.